steep hill for cows to be grazing.
Look at these, yeah, crazy cows up there. Oh shoot, now you probably can't see them. Darn it. Well, there's some of them. Up on top of the hill, yeah.
Look at this view.
Yeah, pretty hill. We're headed towards Hearst Castle for a tour. Man, oh man, that's pretty.
The end of April, right?
Yep. I think the 29th.
Parking. Autos. Got a few EV chargers over there. This is just a visitor center. Yeah.
Please proceed to window 3.
Okay. So just be here no later than 5 till the hour. There's a wonderful free museum. If you see those 2 light posts up ahead, you can wander around in there for a little bit.
Having passed away earlier, William inherited this land he had loved nearly all his life, and immediately hired a talented and singular architect.
Come to the entrance. They are waiting for us. Bus is leaving us. A lot of oranges on the trees.
We're thinking, yeah, definitely. Hi, how are you doing? Where are you visiting from? China. Oh, welcome. Yeah. Not very pretty. It looked like a gargoyle sitting on top of the hot But yeah, there's a lot of wildlife here.
I don't know why this thing wasn't recording. Do it again.
There still are some descendants from that zoo on the property, including zebra. I've heard about 200. Owldads, they're beautiful. They're my favorite, actually, of the exotic. They kind of look like big horse sheep mixed with a goat. They're really interesting. So we have about 200 of those as well. And they fill up kind of southeast India. So when you're heading back towards India, look up into the hills. And you do have to look, which means drivers, you look straight ahead, and then the passenger. Sun in the evening, House of the Sun.
A guest cottage.
It's the medium size of the 3 guest cottage. It's about 3,600 square feet, 18 rooms in total. Bob Hope, is that a name anyone remembers anymore? Yes. Okay. Oh, good. I thought it did good. Bob Hope, the comedian, his wife Dolores, when they were newlyweds, they stayed here. They vacationed in this house.
Look at this. Roman ruins, eh, babe?
You can spend thousands of dollars. Yeah, there are big fundraisers. That's one way to swim in the pool. We have a foundation that works with us that helps us fundraise for some of those larger projects that cost a lot of money. You have to become a foundation. Various different swims that happen during the summer months primarily. The tickets range, but generally they're about $1,000.
This is your pool.
Per person for a couple hours. It is
to
a
swim.
so
For 2 hours.
After you remember.
the other way to get in. She lives in Connecticut, as far as I know. She raises
Patty
dogs.
Hurst.
She lives a very quiet life. Her daughter, Lydia Hurst, is a huge support to us up here. She helps us fundraise quite a bit. She's married to Chris Hardwick, who's a celebrity in Hollywood, so they still bring along their Hollywood friends and come up here and have swim parties. And she's lovely.
So kind of walk us through quickly the generations. So George Hearst had one son.
So George Hearst had one son, William Randolph Hearst, who's the man we're talking about
Right.
here. All right. William Randolph Hearst had 5 boys.
Oh.
Okay. Those 5 boys, 15 marriages. All right. One of them was married once, so it's not all evened out exactly. Lots of ex-wives, though, is my point. So when they're kind of getting rid of the different estates, no one could buy anyone else out. Is my point. Yeah. So today there's 70 direct descendants. Mostly the Hearst have had a tendency to wait till later in life to have their children. So George Hearst was in his 40s when he met and married Phoebe Hearst. Mm-hmm. So he was older.
William Randolph Hearst, the man who built this estate, he didn't get married until he was 40. And his kids, you know, he was in his 50s with some of them.
Right.
And then they kind of just wait longer. So Patty Hearst is a granddaughter. She's a daughter of one of his youngest boys. But there are great-grandsons that are about the same age as Patty Hearst. You know, so there's kind of staggered generations, I guess, I would say. This map, Roman columns ranging in age from about 1,600 years old to about 2,000 years old. Fragments of that are Roman as well. The statues, they're Renaissance, 17th century, Italian. Neptune is in the center, the namesake of the pool. Sea nymphs flanking him, also 17th century. Those used to be freestanding statues. Vacation not too far away. Nice, I think. So 10 feet at the deep end, 3.5 at the shallow end where we were standing before. 345,000 gallons of mountain spring water from the hills. Now that pool would have been heated in Mr. Hurst's time, comfortably year-round to about 75 degrees.
Wow.
It's been described as a liquid ballroom for the gods and goddesses of Hollywood, which is one of my favorite descriptions of anything total. And as a guest of Mr. Hurst, if you didn't have your swimsuit, that wasn't a problem. He had different racks of them down below. You could choose one from the rack.
Dressing
Different
room.
colors, different sizes. All of them, for men and women, one piece. Wool. That was the style for the time. This is the smallest of the 3 guest cottages. Small in Hurstian terms is about 2,500 square feet. It's the same size as the living room we'll see in a few minutes. There with his easel and his
Winston
oil
Churchill
paints,
stayed here.
canvas, and he would paint the view you see here. Mr. Hurst's backyard. He had added to the family land. At the height of his empire, he owned 250,000 acres. All of it. In fact, if you look kind of in between these cypress trees, you can see a hazy outline of a mountain out there. Do you see that? Looks kind of like a camel lying down. That's 40 miles from where we are. He owned the other side of that mountain. W.C. Fields used to joke you could send your kids into Mr. Hurst's backyard and they'd come back adults.
Garden.
Isn't that nice? Some of them more fragrant than others, but they're all beautiful. They all have different names. And you can see these tags here. This will allow you to touch the tags. If you want to look, it says the date of it and the type. This is Capistrano, 1949.
Wow.
Some of them date back to the teens. Yeah, everything's in bloom. The azaleas, the rhododendron. We don't have the hydrangeas quite out yet. But other than that, I mean, spring is a really wonderful time to come. It's not 110 up here yet. Everything's still looking pretty fresh. This pathway here that we're standing on is called the Esplanade. It's a walking pathway. It loops around the main house. If you were to walk the whole thing, it's about a quarter mile. And it's meant to connect the guest cottages to Casa Grande. So again, Casa del Monte behind you, folks over there, is the smallest of the guest cottages. Medium-sized guest cottage again, Casa del Sol. Behind me, the largest of the guest cottages, Casa del Mar, House of the Sea. It's about 5,400 square feet on 3 different levels. Yeah. All right, so do we have later? Yeah, it is. There's always some color up here, though. That was intentional as far as designing the gardens and the winter the camellias. We have about 10 right now. And I love the way they placed there. That was the point. That's how Mr. Hurst had it in his time. Yeah. So this is actually where the guests would have been dropped off back in Mr. Hurst's time. They wouldn't have been let out where the bus like kind of out where we met each other. You would have been driven around to a little cul-de-sac. You can see a little white state vehicle down there. Housekeeper would help you unpack. But you have to think back to the time frame that he's building this estate of the 1920s, and King Tut's tomb has just been unearthed. Everything Egyptian is the rate. Think of the fashions of the time, right? The Art Deco. The trees are about
3,800
100
years
kind of
old.
young by comparison. And the honey lotus tree is blossoming. It's just such a pretty view. So it's fine.
It's 2,000 years old.
We made it. We're at the center of this little town here, right?
This is a small house here.
Just a small. You can get the idea. It's a big house, right? Just under 70,000 square feet.
70,000 square feet.
115 rooms, 38 bedrooms, 42 bathrooms. During the busy years, about 40 to 50 staff would be in charge, and that includes the kitchen staff, the housekeeping staff, and then those gardeners I was talking about.
Well, an architect.
She was a star student of hers. The professors really thought she had it. You know, they encouraged her to become an architect. That's what her dream was. Berkeley didn't offer those classes. The best school in the world in the late 1800s for architecture was not in America. It was in France, in Paris. The École des Beaux-Arts, the fine art school set up by Louis XIV, hundreds of years before, was the school. And they had never accepted a woman before. She would be the first to be accepted into that institution. She will finish in 3.5 years what normally took a student 6.
Wow.
She would come back to California, be certified as our state's first licensed female architect. And she will be hired primarily in the Bay Area by very prominent, forward-thinking women, including Mr. Hurst's mother, Judy Appleton Hurst, who was actually putting together a stable of architects to help build the Berkeley. On the opposite sides of the wild men, you'll see tondos representing Peter and Paul, 16th century Spanish. The crowned Madonna up high above the door is the oldest work of art fashioned into the building itself, an 800-year-old Spanish sculpture.
Going in the little side entrance.
Nice and warm here on the south side.
Get my eyes adjusted. Oh man. That's the front door. Protecting that mosaic.
I don't even think I asked you that. You've been here before? Well, so most of you, this is your first time coming into the assembly room. What do you think? It's pretty significant, isn't it?
These are tapestries, I assume?
They are tapestries, yeah. Your eyes take a second to adjust. So if you could just make sure to stay on the tour map. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. So the reason we don't come in through the front door is because of this entryway here. Yeah, portions of that are Roman, sections of it are from the Renaissance, we think. And then of course, some of it's more modern to the time of the estate being built. But it was restored back in the 80s, and every single one of those little tesserae, those little tiles, had to be removed and then put back in place. Assembly room. This is the main living room of the house. You'd be kind of faced off with the 16th century French mantle from Chateau de Jour originally.
Was this heated by that fireplace?
They would absolutely use the fireplaces, and some guests would say it could burn whole trees. Colleen Moore, she was the first flapper in the movies. She's really cute little, bob haircut, little thin red lips. She would say it was a walk-in fireplace. This was the room you came to in the evenings for cocktails. During the day, you were free as a guest of Mr. Hurst to do whatever you'd like to do. But in the evenings, you had social obligations, and that normally started around 7:30 with cocktails. You'd want to be rested because you're in for a long night. You are going to be expecting to have a social hour or 2 or 3 while you waited for Mr. Hurst to wrap up his workday on the 3rd floor of this house. Here, and then the 2 we can see clearly from this angle here behind me, are part of an original set of 10 tapestries that belonged to Louis XIV. These used to hang on the walls of Versailles. Woven or hang in a museum in San Simeon, California. Pretty great, huh?
Yeah.
But there's a lot of treasures in here. What else do you see that you're interested in? But is the antique, the other 2/3 extension work done by the craftsmen up here. And you'll see a lot of that, you know, kind of.
Those benches or?
They're choir stalls.
Choir, oh.
Yeah. Or 6-hour long, you know, Catholic masses. These are from 2 different churches. They're Italian. They're 15th and 16th century. The set behind you here had to be cut off a foot to match the one behind me. And it's really used as a wainscoting. It's just a way to break up the tall walls. And a nice way to kind of hide a little door that Mr. Hurst would, you know, escort his guests through when it was time for dinner.
Dinner.
If you have any questions, you can ask.
Came back to me.
So dinner is served. And now the ceiling it has. These are all originals. Like in the 12th century probably.
But this is the dining room. The refectory is what Mr. Hurst, his architect, would refer to this room as, which is just an institutional top. So those guest cottages don't have kitchens, they don't have dining rooms. All of your meals will be served here, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Mr. Hurst didn't offer room service. It was actually something he sent out in a memo to all of his guests early on in their visit, explaining that this was not a hotel, but his home, and as such, he had sort of rules. Basically, meal times, breakfast, 9 to noon. You could sleep in if you wanted to, make your way to the refectory when you're ready for your cup of coffee, tell the butler what you want to have for breakfast, and the chef will make it for you. Lunch, usually around 2:30. If it's a nice day like today, Mr. Hurst would probably go onto the main terrace with a cowbell. And he'd ring it to let you know that there was a buffet set up over here on the table. Different options for you. You might have something like, I don't know, fried chicken and mashed potatoes as one option. Maybe a second option might be tamales and rice and beans. Grab a plate, load it up, sit where you want to sit. Dinner was more formal. There was assigned seating, there was a menu printed, put on your plate. Mr. Hurst sat here, across from him, Marion Davies, sitting closest to the couple, guests of honor, or maybe guests who had more recently shown up. P.G. Woodhouse, he was a British humorist, who was a guest here, said the first night he sat next to Marion. Next night, a little further down. Day 3, he's here, and by the end of the week, he's at the end of the table. He said, maybe I need to pack my bags.
No
The
chairs.
ceiling's Italian. He liked his Italian ceilings. This one came from a church originally. That's the Virgin Mary looking down at Mr. Hurst. She's surrounded by Catholic saints. But the way that you see the table set was how it was. My grandmother had something similar, blue willow.
H.
Paper napkins. Mr. Hurst thought they were more sanitary than linen ones. Charlie Chaplin was, it was just the oddest thing. You'd come into this baronial hall and you'd find the condiments in their jars. I personally think, yes, he was sentimental, but I also think it's a little bit of his thumbing his nose at that East Coast formality that he's so disdained. You know, he has all these guests, very prominent guests, tycoons of industry like the Gettys, the Rockefellers, the Vanderbilts. They're coming to this hilltop. Movie stars, the A-listers. In fact, in Hollywood, there was a saying that there were two camps: those who'd been to Hearst Castle and those who said they'd been to Hearst Castle. So for an after dinner smoke, it's the 20s, it's the 30s, everybody's smoking.
After dinner. It's like 24 chairs in here. 12 on either side. Have some grapes for you over there, babe. So we're coming in to watch a movie now after dinner.
Well, first the smoking.
Oh, gotta smoke a few cigars and have some brandy.
Actually, sometimes we get flyers that come on tour, and then they get to sing them. Yeah, you know, it makes us, another reason we're kind of a unique house museum is when the Hearst family and the corporation gifted this to the state, they gifted pretty much 99% of everything in the house.
Even all the silver pieces and
Yeah,
everything.
yeah. What was here, recently undergone a restoration, which took about 10 years. So all of our little projects up here cost at least $1 million.
How did
This
they
was a
find
big
it?
project.
How did they find all this stuff?
No
No
furniture.
telephone, I mean, well,
He's buying it at auction. I mean, this was a different time and period. It's men and women, was unusual. You know, back in that time frame, if you were in
Billiards.
Philadelphia, if you were in New York, if you were in Rhode Island, you're visiting the Biltmore, the men and the women would be separated in the evening. Mr. Hurst thought that was just silly. He had been raised by a very forward-thinking woman, Phoebe Apperson Hurst, huge believer in women's rights. His mother had walked the streets for the right to vote at 70 years old. She had pretty much hammered home in her only child that women were equal to men. He believed it because she was an incredibly capable woman. So him hiring Julia Morgan was not so off the cuff for him. He had women working at the top tier of his corporation. He had women writers writing for him. He had women investigative reporters. He had women editors-in-chiefs running his newspapers. And over 100 years ago, he was paying these women the same rate as their male counterparts. So he wasn't about ready to exclude them from the game of pool. Flowers is the hunt of the stag. Even the tile work embedded in the walls, 19th century
Tapestry from the
tiles,
1400s.
show picnic scenes and dancing scenes. So it's all very carefully thought out.
Okay, going to watch a movie.
Theater
Largest
was
room in the
finished
house.
in the 1930s, just in time for President Calvin Coolidge to visit the hilltop.
You can actually sit in on this one there.
50 down-filled, velvet-covered seats would have been spread back through the back of the room here, each with a little ottoman you could kick your feet up onto. Cashmere blanket behind you in case you needed to stay warm. Mr. Hurst had his own kennel up here. He raised dachshunds, those little wiener dogs, right? He had about 100 of them at a time. And if they had puppies a few weeks before your visit, he would hand out puppies to you to hold. And if you and your puppy got along, that would be your funny thing. It was a fun place. We're going to watch some home movies real quick. Coming out the front door. The woman on his arm is a Canadian-born actress. Her name was Marie Dressler. She played Tugboat Annie in some of the movies. She was actually one of the first women to win an Oscar. We like to joke, not for costume. I don't know what she's wearing, but she's having fun. This is Mary Davies. This is his girlfriend here. Isn't she cute?
Come on
Here
now.
she is with Charlie Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin would say Mary Davies, the funniest woman he'd ever met. He was a little sweet on her, though. Most of her leading men had a crush on her. David Niven would say of Mary Davies, she made up for the rest of Hollywood. Here's Charlie Chaplin's album launching. He would play the villain in the silent films, Guesthouses and Grounds. Publisher Paul Block on the left, the mayor of New York, Jimmy Walker.
Get my eyes adjusted again. Go outside.
So am I just waiting
Okay.
right there? I just need to have a fox family that likes to come into the house.
Tall palm trees.
indoor Roman pool is located. In fact, you'll see some glass blocks lining the tennis nets that lets light into the indoor Roman pool. I'm only interested in
Forget a little incline. You know, if you were in your wheelchair, you could get up some speed through here. So this is the building underneath the tennis courts, eh? Crazy.
He did not. He sold it. Served out. Because the indoor Roman pool is undergoing a restoration. Because the tennis courts are above, it leaks when it rains, and over the years, the cork tile ceiling has sort of disintegrated. We've had to scrape it off. It echoes terribly inside the pool. Just to let you know a few things about the pool, it's designed to look like a Roman bathhouse. 2.2 million glass little tiles from Murano, Italy achieved that. 350,000 of them are 22 to 24 karat gold. Now the whole pool is 10 feet end to end. It's deep all the way across. In the center is a diving platform. That's where you're going to see the light filter through the glass blocks, and then a shallow alcove beyond that that's about 3.5 feet deep. Hedda Hopper would say this place was never Neverland. Never had there been such a place, and never again would we see its likes. I just want to thank you so much for being such a great group of
10 feet deep. Yeah. This is crazy. Yeah, up there. You go up there and dive off, eh?
Alcove was 3.5 feet deep.
Then drops to 10 feet right
This
there.
is beautiful.
Look at this. Look at the shadows. I mean, look at the reflections of the.
Yes, look at that. Wow.
It's crazy. Okay. The buses are waiting.
Thank you very
was
much.
kidnapped 2 doors down from
Oh, yeah, terrifying.
While you're at the visitor center, be sure to stop by the gift shop and also to view the free exhibits, which will give you an expanded.
We're back in the visitor center. There you go. Pork sandwich, 17 bucks. Salads, 13 for pre-prepared. Huh?
This is the elephant seals, and it's a walk.
I don't care.
It's like a 3-mile walk, so we should eat something. You know what I mean? All right, there's Hearst Castle from the side of the highway. All right.